It's Pie Day! I'm Scott.
I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we discuss the not-so-new anime, Jyu Oh Sei. Let's do this.
Behold, Internet, we are back.
Aha! Our link to the outside world and the source of infinite information has been reformed.
I guess it is a sign that we're becoming moderately popular. The sheer number of complaints compared to how many complaints I would have expected to the fact that we uploaded one episode late.
Yeah. Oh, people, they can't have anything change, even slightly, in their daily routine.
What are they going to do if we change the music or something?
They'll just, kill themselves. I don't know.
Or what if you get throat surgery and then I die and get replaced with Emily?
I don't know. Will the show even continue at that point?
I see the show continuing. Well, it'll be kind of like the Tonight Show. It'll just have a different host. When we get old and die, we'll appoint someone else to take over. Someone will eventually be the Johnny Carson of Geeknights, and
hopefully they won't be the Jon Stewart, and people will think back, oh, Rim and Scott, they suck. This guy's way better.
I almost feel bad for Craig Kilborn, but then I don't, because I liked him, but he wasn't even half as funny as Jon Stewart.
No, not really. Oh, well.
Yep.
Apparently, this whole time, it was the cable modem that was broken.
Yeah, now think about that for a minute. We had a tech com, and he looked at our cable modem and said, wow, your internet's not working. And I assumed that he considered the possibility that the most obvious, direct, common point of failure might be the problem. But no, he climbed up the utility pole and looked at the wires up there and even replaced some of them. He looked at the wires to the house, he fixed them, he replaced all the connectors outside the house.
He called some guys to come the next day and replace some of the wires outside.
He tested all the cables in the whole house, but he didn't actually check the cable modem, and sure enough, that was what was broken.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, too. I mean, because the cable modem, as far as we're concerned, it's a black box. We know nothing about it. It's just a cable modem. A cable goes in one end and internet comes out the other end. And we have no control over it or anything. And looking at the lights on the cable modem is about all the information we've got. And those lights indicated that the cable modem was working as well as it ever had. So how did we know it was... I didn't even consider that it'd be broken because it looked like it was working.
Well, apparently the new one, Emily she had to deal with this. The story's secondhand, but he comes and he sets it up, and then he asks for Internet Explorer because he has to connect to the thing and configure it. To which she says, Internet Explorer, that's not the kind of thing that this household would have. Which is pretty much true.
The only place that it's in this household right now is if you reboot my desktop or this laptop that I'm going to install Ubuntu on probably tonight. Because now I have internet, so I can do that sort
If you
of thing.
reboot my computer that's currently in Linux into Windows Safe Mode, you can get to Internet Explorer.
It's not easy to use Internet Explorer in our house unless you bring your own.
So the guy...
BYOIE?
Apparently this guy couldn't fathom the possibility of there existing another web browser, let alone that someone would have a reason not to use Internet Explorer.
And somehow he is the most senior tech for Cablevision.
Or at least the last one they sent.
Maybe. They said that they were sending, the most senior guy possible and that they wouldn't leave until they fixed it.
Well, it got even further because he's asking, what kind of people don't have Internet Explorer? And she's explaining, well, it's two computer guys and I do computer animation. And to it, here's the interesting thing. He didn't understand what computer animation was at all. She had to explain it to him in simplified dummy terms. Pixar?
This is a town full of art people. Don't they all have Macs? What the hell?
Yeah, so he looks at the Mac and he says, I don't see Internet Explorer. And she says, just click on on Firefox. To which he says, what? So she shows him and he tries to use Firefox and it totally doesn't work with whatever garbage is on this cable modem. So eventually he uses Safari and it works.
What? Shouldn't the cable modem just be plug and play? Why does it need any sort of configuring?
Actually, it needs quite a bit of configuring. Usually that's done ahead of time, but a lot of times there's an ID in there so they can identify it. Sometimes some of them have routers or DHCP stuff built in.
Yeah, but I mean, if you get a cable box for cable television, even a digital one, they configure it from the cable headquarters. They don't need to come there to configure it. They plug it in with the coax and they configure it from that end.
Yeah. Well,
why should there be any configuration?
Because there's
from
no
the
difference.
end?
And usually, remember, it's not like he had the pre-configured one ready. He came, decided to replace it, and pulled a virgin one out of his truck.
It's true.
It had to be configured for our house. I mean, maybe he had to tell it not to show us actual TV, or maybe he had to disable the telephoning, because it's got 2 telephone lines in the back for if you want to use that special voice over IP business that they offer.
Yeah. Oh, well. The other modem that we got rid of was like the same brand, but smaller and older, and it was always very hot.
But all cable modems are always very hot.
I know, but I'm wondering, like, what did it in? Because the way it broke was very strange, where the internet was slow, working, not working, working, not working. I'm willing to bet that the heat over time damaged the goods.
Well, that's a very common thing. That's what destroyed my GeForce 2 GTS. Eventually, the heat was just too much, and the GPU, I don't know what happened. I think the RAM actually on the video card went bad, because that was when it started showing the wrong colors of things, and the display was all weird, but the video card otherwise worked just fine.
Yeah, well, now that this new cable modem is plugged in, I'm going to go see if it's hot. Because if it's not hot, then I will assume, because that's all I really can assume, that it is very likely that the old modem was always broken. It was just only slightly
no, I would
broken.
doubt that, because I think part of the problem is that our cable modem was actually pretty old compared to the one that they gave us now. And I've never in my life had a cable modem or seen a cable modem that wasn't extremely warm when it was on.
I've seen them, that they're the ones when they used to be the size of cable boxes. Or
Those were even hotter.
Or when they used to also be your cable box. Some of those weren't really hot.
Yeah, they were. At least the ones I had.
Oh, different cable boxes, different places.
Yeah, I remember I had a cable modem in like 1995.
See, what we really need is people Engadget especially, they keep complaining about this cable card support that is supposedly in Vista. Now, if anyone doesn't know, if you have cable television in your cable box, you might notice like a credit card sticking out the front of it. That's a cable card. Supposedly, this is technology that no one has implemented for consumer use, where you can take that card and put it in another cable card device, such as a TiVo or a computer running Windows Media Center or anything like that. And now you don't need a cable box. You just need any device that has a coax input that can also house this card. So that way they know you're not stealing cable because you have the card, and you don't have to rent a cable box from the cable company or anything. You can use whatever device you've got. This technology exists. It's all the cable boxes come with cable cards in them. You know, it's there, it's ready, but the devices that can hold these cable cards, no one's making them, even though Vista technically has support. And I'm wondering, maybe once we get over the hurdle of having cable card support for television transmission, we could just get routers with cable cards. So I go to the store, I buy any router I want. I don't need their crazy cable modem from the cable company. I just put a cable card in my own router.
You would still need a cable modem, because what that does is it's a modem. It translates those analog signals.
But I would get my own. Like I might
You
have...
can do that now. Even with our current cable, you can just buy a cable modem and configure it however they say, and it'll just work.
Huh. Oh.
In fact, we'd save money if we did that. At least,
no, because we pay a flat rate. There's no... It doesn't break down. I looked at the bill.
well, every other cable I've ever had in my life broke down, and you were renting the cable modem, and it cost like $5 a month within your normal bill. And if you called them specially and said, I already have a cable modem, they wouldn't give you one, and they'd charge you $5 less.
Well, maybe we'll look into that, because that might be
It's not worth it. Cable modems break all the time.
Well, I'm thinking if you had a computer that you would say also using as a firewall and a DHCP server and all that other good
Besides,
stuff.
it would also, if you had a router like that, it'd get really hot.
Well, you'd have like a PCI card that was a cable modem.
A PCI card that would get really hot.
Yeah, but you could have a fan, which the cable modem does not have a fan.
So you want a fan on a little PCI card in the back of your PC.
No, I'd have one of those fans that takes up a PCI slot next to it.
You know what you'd be better off having?
What?
Some sort of box outside of your computer, separate from the computer, that could cool itself, and you didn't have to worry about it. Maybe a cable modem.
But this one doesn't have a fan either.
It doesn't need a fan. It only needs a fan if it's in your computer, generating heats and eating your dudes.
Whatever.
Anyway, it's anime day, so probably my favorite manga creator ever, Go Nagai.
He's not your favorite manga creator ever.
He's my favorite in terms of name recognition and name recall. I like
Name-
saying Go Nagai.
Okay, Go Nagai is fun to say, but I think you might recall Osamu Tezuka more.
Yeah, but I don't recall isn't recalling the name in order to say it. I don't say ha Osamu Tezuka all the time, but I say ha Go Nagai.
Go Nagai.
Well, and also the guy who made Go-Go 13, and a whole bunch of other mangaka in Japan, are suing the ever-living shit out of some kids who were running a website that was hosting scans of their manga.
Really?
They're suing for 22 million yen in damages, and apparently these guys already lost another lawsuit not too long ago over the same website. The website is currently down.
Wait. So who lost? The kids, or
The kids,
the manga?
obviously.
Oh, all right. Oh.
You read the same article. This was your news before I took it.
Well, I didn't actually read it. I was going to read it.
So what were
and
you
then
going to
took it.
say?
Well, I just looked up that 22 million yen is
Well, the article is kind of
almost
dubious.
$200,000.
Because the article says, and I quote, blah, 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 are seeking 22 million yen, approximately 20 million US dollars in damages. Now think about that for a minute. That's saying that a yen is worth about $1, which I don't think our currency's fallen that far yet.
No, it says right here, according to Google, I typed into
I
Google,
know.
22 million yen in dollars.
So good job, Anime News Network.
it says-
you were once again the source of perfectly factual news.
Well, Anime News Network is attempting to hire a new editor. Maybe that will help them with their false information.
I'm not too worried.
Yeah.
The thing is, this article is kind of useless too. They don't actually say, like, was this scanslations? Was it just scans? Was the website primarily for Americans? Was it for Japanese people? Was it just a straight up bootleg? There's none of that
It
information.
doesn't even really say who was running the website or like what the website had on it exactly.
Even better, they cite a source, right? Source, Mainichi. They link to Mainichi, the front page. So I couldn't even follow this. See, a lot of people on Dig and all over the internet were talking about this. Oh, they're going to go after the scanslators, but we don't know if this had anything to do with that. This might have been just straight up piracy in Japan.
I have a feeling it was just piracy in Japan. And, yeah.
If that's the case, I have to give the Balls Award to these two guys for just openly running a non-obfuscated, straight-up piracy server on their own.
And if you do that, this is what's going to happen.
I mean, they were running it in Japan, too. It's not like they were running it in Russia or Belarus.
I know. Dudes, at least use a BitTorrent or something so you don't get caught like this.
I mean, where sites like that existed in 1995?
Oh, wow, you're right. Where sites don't really exist anymore.
Yeah, remember cracks.ru?
Is that still there?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure, like,
I'm gonna type it in.
Hasta La Vista might still exist.
Cracks.ru is not loading. I think it's gone. So I'd like to talk about the ramifications of this, but I have no information other than the Anime News Network. For all I know, they just made this story up.
So the news that was originally Manga Pirates Pund is actually Anime News Network not so good at reporting.
Yeah, a little from column A, a little from column B. I mean, the fact that it involved Go Nagai is the primary reason I brought it up. Also, the fact that nothing else happened. There were some release dates I don't care about, and that's about it.
Yeah, not much going down in the anime world. It's mostly game news lately, and, well, we didn't do news yesterday, so there's going to be a flood next week and the week after. All right, so, last week, Captain America died.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. If you don't know by now, wow, are you living under a rock? And if you don't know
what?
by now, you're probably someone who doesn't care.
I probably wouldn't have known if I weren't doing a podcast and reading the news.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I wouldn't have known either. I don't read those comics. Unless I was hanging around a comic forum and listening to the podcast.
I'll bet money he's back within 2 years.
Almost definitely. I saw actually pictures today of, like, some covers that may or may not be fake of, like, the Punisher is going to be Captain America for a while, which is typical superhero fan crap.
Yeah, you know who should be? If anyone's going to take over Captain America's job, it's got to be the comedian.
Anyway, so there's a hubbub about this, actually. And, of course, you know, you make a comic where someone dies and it gets all over the news. So there's going to be a run. The demand is high for this comic. They're actually going to make it a second printing, which is not as common as it used to be. So, of course, the price is high. You're not going to pay the usual cover price for this thing. If you want this, you're going to have to pay like $5 maybe. Unless you go to a good comic book store where they just charge cover price, in which case they're probably sold out until they get another batch in. However, nobody knew that Captain America was going to die in this comic before it showed up at the store. You know what I mean? The comic guys order Captain America number 25 just like they ordered number 24. And they get it and they read it and then they put it on the shelf. And it wasn't until that day that it hit shelves that people knew what was going on in it. Now, people at Marvel knew because, well, they made it. But nobody else knew.
Well, obviously the people at Marvel and all their friends and family, and then all the friends and family of all them.
Well, I don't know. There were actually people at Marvel who didn't know. It seemed that they kept it close to the chest on this one. However, people at Wizard Magazine, perhaps one of the worst magazines in existence, at least, it's not what it... I guess it's not the worst magazine in existence, because there are far worse magazines, like, I don't know, The Inquirer and such.
Weekly World News.
Yeah, Weekly World News is at least funny, though, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. But the Wizard magazine, it's supposed to be, like, it has the potential to be an awesome magazine because it's about awesome stuff. It's like Nerd Magazine. It could be great, but it just falls so flat. But they knew. Now, the problem is that Wizard Magazine is a journalistic entity. They write about comic books and other nerdy things. So there's nothing wrong with them knowing. They also happen to be a company that runs conventions. All right, not a big deal. They also happen to be a company that sells comic books. They were selling this issue on eBay with many variant covers and all that jazz before it hit shelves, before it was delivered to stores. They knew in advance, and they took advantage of that to make a bunch of money and rip people off on eBay.
Good job. They probably found out somehow. I guess I'll bet it wasn't that hard for people in the industry to find out if they really needed to.
Yeah. While this particular incident, is kind of sketchy if you care, and I personally don't care because it's such small stupidity that it doesn't matter, but there are other instances where this sort of activity is not so hot. That's why we have laws against insider trading, and that's why a lot of people are worried about, like, video game magazines. Where, like, at one point, GamePro might have made a video game, and people were like, oh no, if they do that, then it'll all be journalistic integrity and, sketchy insider jobbins that are no good.
But the video game review industry is already like that. Even if PC Gamer made games, it wouldn't be any different from how it is now.
I know.
So I've never heard these concerns.
People have expressed these concerns. People are talking about, like, what if GameStop made a game? And they also have Game Informer magazine, and they own the store.
You know what? It doesn't matter.
A total.
They just wouldn't have to bribe themselves. Usually, you have to bribe someone to get them to give you a good review. Now you just don't have to do anything.
Yeah, it's just sort of like like what if the New York Times published a book and then they did a book review on it saying
That's
it was
fine,
the best book ever?
Because you know who made the game and you know who's reviewing it, so there's no problem at all.
The thing is, most people don't know. We went to GameStop. The guy at GameStop didn't even know the Game Informer was made by GameStop. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. I guess I just care so little. I mean,
I also care so little, but it's just, there is an issue here of it being ethical and such.
I don't really see much of an ethics problem because it was a secret, and if it depends if it got out secretly or not. But even if it was done blatantly in order to make money, I still don't see much wrong with it because it's not like this was anything that mattered in the world. This was just some literature.
I agree that it was something that matters, absolutely not. But it is a case of using information to gain an unfair advantage.
But at what point does using information to gain an advantage become unfair? What if you're just smarter than everyone else and you figure it out?
That is the important question, isn't it?
Or what if you find out and then you realize you can capitalize on it? What if you find out by espionage? What if you find out by murdering someone? There's this whole sliding scale.
Well, the murdering and the espionage are unethical to begin with, so
but
I don't think
you
you have to worry about it.
What if you're going through Marvel's public garbage? Because it's perfectly legal in most cases to go through someone's garbage.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I guess it all depends on the circumstances.
Because remember, a trade secret, the onus of protecting a trade secret is on the company who has the secret. So if you accidentally reveal, or if you leave like the test issue in the garbage and someone finds it, you're at fault and you can't sue the person who releases it to the world in most cases.
That is correct. However, if someone comes in and takes your trade secret, or like if they worked for you and then they reveal the trade secret without you telling them to.
Only if they signed an NDA.
That's true. They have to sign that says they will not tell the trade
Surprisingly,
secret.
My new company didn't really make me sign any NDAs.
Yeah, I didn't have to sign too much at my current place.
I had to sign stuff for hospitals, all the various requirements for not giving out patient information, but anything else, it's fair game if I wanted to talk about it.
I mean, I signed the non-compete and the don't...
non-compete.
And I also signed the don't, poach the employees if you quit, but it only lasts 6 months, so it's not a big deal.
I would never sign a non-compete. I would not work for a company that would make me sign a non-compete.
It's not a big deal. It's saying if you leave here, you can't work for someone else who does the exact same thing.
Well, yeah, what exactly did it say? Did you have a lawyer look
It
at it?
actually said competitors, and
That could be interpreted broadly. I would have a lawyer look at it.
I'm not worried about it.
I just, in general, won't sign non-competes. IBM had one, and I just didn't sign it. Things of the day. So we were catching up on all those dig videos that we missed since we didn't have the internet for a while, and one of them caught our eye. It was entitled First Erotic Film. Now,
Gee, that's gonna really catch your eye. The first erotic. Ooh.
Well, part of it was that it wasn't that long ago we went to the New York Sex Museum, and we not only saw effectively the first erotic film, but we also saw the first erotic animation.
Well, one of the first erotic animations, but perhaps also the most hilarious erotic animation.
It is so high quality. If there was a DVD, I would probably buy it.
Maybe there is a DVD.
We should look.
We should.
Anyway, so we assume that this is probably one of the things we saw at the museum. We click on it, and not to spoil anything, but it is not that. It is, in fact, an animation, a rather recent one, from the Annecy Film Festival in France, an animation festival. And it is done by this Gobelins in 2002. I don't know if it was actually submitted to the festival or if it was a promotion for the festival, but it is rather hilarious, and it is actually pretty much safe for work.
Yeah, I mean, if you get fired for watching this at work,
You shouldn't be working there.
That's not someplace you want to work at all. And yeah, this video is not what we expected, and it was 1,000 hilarities, and it was really short. It was just like a one-liner joke turned into like a 10-second animation.
I mean, the first half is kind of a, do you get the joke yet? Do you get the joke yet? Do you get the joke yet? Ah, now you get the joke. And then there's another joke.
The end. You know, it's awesome. Everyone should watch it, unless you're, I don't know. Everyone should watch it.
If you're listening to this show, there is no way this would bother you.
That's true. All right, so remember Lensman guy, the Doc Smith who wrote all the Lensman books?
Yeah.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if you meant the director of the anime. Or
Oh no, the director of the anime can go die in a fire.
Who did direct that?
That's a good question. We'll look that up later. But anyway, the guy who wrote Lensman, Doc E.E. Smith, I think actually E.E. stands for Edward Elmer. One of his books, namely Triplanetary, which is the first book in the Lensman series chronologically speaking, but it's, I think, the fifth book in terms of when it was published. So you're actually supposed to read it fifth, so I haven't read it yet because I've only read 3 Lensman books. However, this book is on Project Gutenberg now. But that's not the news, because big deal. A book is on Project Gutenberg. I noticed 2 interesting things about this particular Project Gutenberg release. Number 1, it says, copyright status, not copyrighted in the United States. If you live elsewhere, check the laws of your country before downloading this ebook. I have a copy of the book published in the United States. So either that person gave up the copyright because they had it at one point, or I don't know. But that's sort of dubious.
Well, maybe the publisher here just had the right to publish it, but the copyright still expires regardless of who you've given rights to.
That could be true, because it is very old. The second thing I noticed, they didn't just put the words of the book online. If you look at this in HTML format, these books, all these Lensman books, weren't originally novels. They were originally pulp serials with like a chapter or 2 every week in some magazine. They actually put the chapters from the magazines up there, and the pictures, the illustrations that were in the original pulp magazines up there as well.
Huh, did he do the illustrations or did he hire someone?
I don't know who did the illustrations, but they're there on the Project Gutenberg if you read it in HTML format.
Huh.
And that is way cool because pulp literature magazines do not exist anymore. And reading these kinds of stories now, you get them in novel paperback books and you don't realize that they were originally, serialized pulp action and see the original stuff that was there. And
I don't know. It depends on the thing. I mean, I could not bring myself to read The Count of Monte Cristo in its original form.
Oh, what is the original? Well, French. But
serialized.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's serialized, but you have all the bits in one big HTML file,
then it's no different than reading it in the book form.
Yeah, but it has it, split up in the correct fashion, and all the original pictures are there instead of like I have some different publishings of some of the different Lensman books, and the art is all completely different for the covers and stuff. So having the original art is sort of different from having...
Yeah, well, I guess if there's art, there's a big difference. But aside from art, if something was published in one format and I read it in another format, that doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, plus it's sort of it's like a presence of art where the only art I have for the Lensman books I've got is the covers. And this, there was some inside illustrations that you never would have seen. And it's pretty cool.
Are they good?
Yeah, they're actually pretty interesting. Like, because sometimes you have a hard time in Lensman figuring out, like, what the ships look like and what certain aliens look like. Because he describes them, but he doesn't describe them in super detail. Like, he'll say, like, there's a slimy appendage or something. It could be any kind of slimy appendage. It could be a pseudopod, it could be a tentacle, it could be a big tentacle, a small tentacle. You're not always 100% sure, and you kind of get a picture over time of what the things look like, but it's not always easy to tell. He spends a lot more time talking about these sizes and powers of things, and you get the general feel for what something's like, but not everyone has a different picture because it's not the most adjective-filled.
All right, that's
novel.
the exact opposite of the Count of Monte Cristo, which describes in intricate detail every object ever presented to you over the course of the novel. That's why it's so long.
Yeah, Lensman reads pretty fast, and it's pretty fun.
So tonight, we're going to preview, we haven't done that in a while, an anime that we have only seen a few episodes of. Suffice to say, we're suitably impressed by it to where we feel the need to talk about it, and also, we get the sense that a lot of people have passed it by or haven't recognized that it exists.
Well, it was on the air in April to June 2006, which means that's probably when it would have been on BitTorrents, and I usually download episode 1 of just about anything. And if I had downloaded this episode 1, I probably would have kept watching it.
I don't know. You seem to give shows often the look at it for 2 seconds, you see one character you don't like, and you say, this show is crap, and delete it.
But if I would have seen these, it's kind of hard to watch the first episode without seeing outer space action.
But you don't watch the first episode. You would have clicked through, seen 2 pretty silver-haired boys, and said, this is crap, and deleted it. I know you.
No.
You've done that to other shows.
Yeah, shows where I go click, 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 and I see some Moe girls, and then and it's pretty obvious what the shows are, and I don't have to actually watch them.
So tonight we're going to talk a bit about Jyu Oh Sei, or Planet of the Beast King.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out exactly the correct romanization of the name. I mean,
well, it's not difficult. It's just that they listed here twice.
Well, I've seen it spelled like 3 or 4 different ways.
Oh, because the internet knows what it's talking about.
I know, right? I've seen people say 3 separate words. Jyu Oh Sei. I've seen Jyu Oh Sei, Juuousei.
I've never seen anything other than those 2, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I saw one that was like Juus.
Where?
Some fan subbers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, not so good.
It's directed by Hiroshi Nishikiori, who you might know from Azumanga Daioh.
Oh, really?
Not that it's anything like Azumanga Daioh.
No, it's not like Azumanga Daioh at all.
Now, we're going to spoil things from the first episode later on, so we'll warn you in progression. So once we'll tell you when we're going to spoil stuff. We'll hold off for a bit. Because the reason that we like this show is basically a spoiler for the very beginning of the show.
Yeah, I don't think we should spoil that in this episode, but we can definitely...
We'll have to spoil where the plot goes, because it starts in one place and ends up somewhere else.
Yeah, that's pretty impossible to spoil, and if we don't spoil that, you really can't do a faithful review of this show, because you won't really know what the show is about if I only tell you first episode stuff.
Yeah, but to go over very briefly what the plot is, we're going to talk more about our impressions of it. It is 2 brothers, twin brothers, Thor and Rai. They are silver-haired, pretty boys living in a space station. They're very young. Their parents are obviously bigwigs. They're at a museum or something. They're living their normal lives. And you expect this to be some sort of silver-haired boys in space drama.
I expected it to be sort of like a Gundam type of thing, maybe. Like they're going to do they're so smart and they're so great at sports and everything. And they're going to somehow become action military heroes of some sort and fight other guys in space.
Yep. Well, 3 of the genres listed on Anime News Network are, in fact, adventure, drama, and military.
Yeah, I mean, you watch 5 minutes of this show, and if you've seen anime before, you know where that show's going. That's what you're thinking. You can't imagine anything else happening with this show.
So I expected it to be a generic show, but Emily had highly recommended it. Emily was watching it. In fact, she'd seen most of it, and she's got all of it here, and so we all sat down, and she wanted to show it to us, and we watched the first episode, and it starts out in this generic way, so... I wonder why she likes this so much.
Yeah, well, I mean, it started out in a generic way, but I was already hooked because there are just so few anime these days that aren't a moe show or a harem show or a furry show or any of those sorts of, high school craps. So I was like, finally, someone decided to make another sci-fi show other than Ergo Proxy, which is the other recent sci-fi show.
The other one that we have to finish watching.
Yes. So I'm like, yes, a sci-fi show. I must support this show and watch it just so we get more real shows.
Now, you do get the sense, the coordinator sense. You look at these kids and the way they act and the way they talk, and you would think, wow, they're obviously genetically augmented in some way to be badasses.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at him and I was like, all right, so what did they do to these kids to make them all weird? What are their special abilities? I was just waiting for it to show up. I was like, why is their hair white and their eyes all perfect? And, tell me the plot. I already see it a mile away and you haven't even said one word about it.
Now, a show like this, that it takes a while for the plot to develop, and there's a certain pace to this sort of things. There's going to be an episode or two of generic whatever, hinting at the plot, then the event will happen. The event, like the Gundam appears, that causes them to break out of their normal lives and have their Gundam-inspired life, and then the real plot starts, 7 episodes after that. Then there's the recap episode around episode 14 or 15.
Take that, Archduke Ferdinand.
So this show pretty much skips all of that and immediately jumps to the meat.
Well, the problem is the meat is most of the show, as far as I can tell, and the meat is not what you think you're going to get. It's sort of like a jelly donut. You see the donut, and you say, donut, and you imagine sugary fried dough. You bite it, and you taste sugary fried dough, but not a second later, jelly filling, and most of what you get for the next 20, how many episodes is it? 26?
See, here's the other thing. It's only 11 episodes.
Oh, so the most of what you get for the next 11 episodes is going to be jelly. And then at the end, on the other side of the donut, there's a bit more frosting.
See, I would say that's a bad analogy just for me personally because I really don't like jelly donuts.
I know, but I'm talking...
At all.
Like a blow pop, a blow pop.
I hate blow pops.
You just seem to don't like anything that works as an analogy, do you?
All right, how about a Boston cream donut?
All right, you bite it expecting donut, and then it's mostly just cream. But you didn't think it was going to be cream because you didn't know.
So we'll avoid spoiling it for a bit. I really want to mention the opening theme, Deep in Your Heart, by Koichi Domoto. I don't know who they are or anything, but it's not the kind of music I've heard coming out of Japan, maybe because I haven't looked very much recently, and I really like it.
I kind of like it. It's a good one. I mean, it's not one of those amazing openers of all time like German Sailor Moon.
Yeah,
but
German Sailor Moon.
But it's not one of those bad, painful openers like, I just skip over it, I would, if I was watching this on DVD, since there's only 11 episodes, I might actually watch the opener all 11 times.
There are only a few shows we'll do that for. I mean, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, first and second gig, we watch the opener every time.
Gundam Seed, I watch the opener every time.
I started skipping it towards the end just because...
Well, just because, you're getting it in the heat, but...
Yep, also because once you get to the last opener, it's actually not as good as some of the openers before it.
Yeah, when you have 5 different openers, it's hard for them all to be so great. The fact that all of them are as great as they are is a miracle,
actually,
as it is.
Utena, I watched the opener most of the time, and I watched the closer, the second half, like when they got to the good opener at the end.
Well, in Utena, I'll always watch the closer, but
yeah.
the opener, I will skip sometime.
It depended on the episode or what was going on.
It does depend a lot.
But yeah, it's one of those shows where I like the open. Also, the show is very prettily animated.
It's not, I wouldn't say it's very prettily animated.
Compared to, like, it starts out like one of those Gonzo shows where it's animated pretty, it's really good. It looks good and shiny.
It looks like the best, Gonzo's good works. That's what it looks like.
But it doesn't seem to decline like all those Gonzo things end up doing.
How many episodes do we watch? Like 5 or 6? Or
Emily's seen almost all of it, and she seems to have a high opinion of it still.
It didn't seem to decline at all. Every episode seemed to be equally animated, although they were drawing very different things in the first episode compared to the other episodes.
Yes, though it is a good credit to this show that it starts with this one world, then it throws you into this whole other business, and yet... after about 10 minutes of watching that other business, you almost forget about the original plot entirely. And you get so immersed in what's going on now that you just totally forget what's actually going on.
I just really hope they go back to the original plot at the end, which they almost have to, the way the show's going.
But it's the same thing that Brave Story did, where there's the original plot and then the show. Kind of like in The Simpsons, they'll have the beginning plot, then the real plot.
Yep.
So you're watching and you get drawn into this other world where you don't care about what was going on in the beginning. And you're so immersed in it that you forget that there's this whole other plot thread that's actually the driving force of the show. You just forget it.
Yeah, well, I think it's actually sort of the opposite of The Simpsons, because The Simpsons, they have the opening plot, which isn't the real plot of the episode, and then they get to the real plot.
True.
This is the opening plot that they give you in the beginning is the real plot, and then you're on sort of this, like, journey in order to get back to the plot through the whole show, and then at the end, supposedly, I hope, you get back to it, but I don't know, I haven't seen the end.
Huh. Talked about The Simpsons and jelly donuts in one show.
Donut.
RDRR.
Okay.
All right. We're going to spoil, at this point, pretty much the first plot development in the entire show, which happens almost immediately in the first episode.
Yeah. So there's kids in space.
And they're obviously very smart and young and in school and whatever. And there's all this, all the typical, they're talking about, oh, it'd be nice to be on a planet with a sky. And,
yeah,
space.
because they live in a space colony.
And there's a lot of atmosphere. Like, you see the sky, and then later from a different angle, you realize that the sky is actually kind of painted onto the ceiling.
Yeah. And there's two brothers, and they're obviously special, and their parents are, like, high-ups in the government involved in sort of important science-type stuff. And there's some genetic stuff that they're obviously modified and better in some way. But even though they're twins, one of them seems to be smart and athletic, and the other one seems to be kind of wussy but smart.
Yeah, one of them is definitely the whiny, annoying kind of guy.
The Ray is the annoying one,
Right, yeah.
And the other, Thor.
Yes, all right, yeah, see, we've got Thor and Rai.
There's a lot of Norse references in this show. Like, they say, like, there's, they mention Odin, and they mention all sorts of crazy
There's a lot
stuff.
of mythological references in general. I mean, if they're talking about all the different names of planets and colonies and everything, and pay attention to that. I'm not sure how much that's going to come into play.
I'm willing to bet Loki shows up at the end in some symbolic way. I mean, it would be so hard not to do that, that it's almost inevitable if you pay attention at all.
So they go home after being at the museum or whatever they were at, and right away something's wrong. The door's unlocked. Competent brother starts to handle the situation, goes in to see what's going on. Whiny brother follows him in.
The house is dark. Nobody's making any noise. What's going on? Where did our parents go? They're supposed to be home.
Come around the corner. Oh, snaps. Parents are dead.
And this is pretty much the first thing that happens in the show. Now, in other anime, that might be the last thing that happens in the show.
Or that would be the thing that happens at the end of the third episode.
Yes. This is something that happens in the middle of the first episode. So that's you got quite big balls to kill the parents right away like that.
Yeah, not only that, but kids are then kidnapped by shadowy people with various gases.
I mean, killing the parents is not like the climax of a plot arc or the that thing that finally breaks a straw that gets the character to do what they're supposed to do. It's the impetus for the whole rest of the thing. Without that happening, the whole rest of the show wouldn't have happened.
You know what it is? Every RPG for a Nintendo system ever, you know how you start and the parents were just dead and you're living with the uncle or the dad disappeared or something? This show just started one day before all those RPGs start.
That's pretty good. You're right.
Yeah.
Instead of, waking up when your mom wakes you up and then,
Your mom gets killed by the evil sorcerer the next day while you're at school.
or you're Link and you wake up in Malin and Talon's house and you don't have parents. This is, hell, your parents die right in the first episode. It's good stuff.
So then they wake up and they're on this planet.
Well, no, some guys come and attack them, and then...
Well, I already said that. They got kidnapped.
Oh, okay, they got kidnapped and they wake up, right.
Now, this is where the show begins in earnest. They wake up on this planet, and it's obviously a planet, blue skies, whatever. It's not exactly the kind of place they're used to being in. It is effectively this harsh, inhospitable, deadly jungle filled with the derelicts of society who have been cast aside to this... effectively, from what you would gather, a prison planet or an exile planet to fend for themselves. It's a super dangerous world. There's no animals. There's all plants, and the plants are super deadly.
I think that's actually the number one thing that makes the show pretty cool is that the world that most of the story takes place on is just an awesome world. I mean, the plants in this place are so wildly varied. It's like if your whole planet was covered with Cthulhu-type plants, and they're all different, and some of them are useful, and they always sort of come in at just the right moment as useful plot devices, and it's all the plants are pretty awesome. Like, there's one kind of plant that, like, totally destroys the city, but it brings water from underground that lets them live.
Or there's the one with the super poisonous bits.
Yeah, and, like, it's pretty cool because they stress right away as soon as they start meeting the prisoners and people on this planet that if you know more about the plants, then you will get ahead in this world.
Yeah, effectively.
And then they show you that, yes, that is the case. If you know about the plants and pay attention to them, that's the key to survival.
See, you could effectively call this show an exercise in Darwinism. Because the people that are on this planet have adapted, and it is a rough, only the fit survive. In fact, only the strong survive. The ones who throw away their humanity and become the beasts humans once were.
Yep.
That's from the plot summary on Anime News Network.
That's pretty much sums it up right there.
So they run afoul of people here. There's a bunch of tribes of people that have kind of formed on various parts of this planet.
Yeah, they divided up themselves into rings, like the sun ring and the something else ring, like all kinds of rings, you know, and basically they have this ranking system where whoever's the strongest is in charge of the ring, and you'll be like number 1 or number 2 or number 3.
I gotta say, the third, the guy we meet, is really cool. I like him a
he's
lot.
one of the best characters in the show.
Him and the girl you meet right away.
Yeah, and then there's someone who's the Beast King, you know, and to be the Beast King, you have to be the leader of all the rings, and only the Beast King can leave the planet, but they don't tell you how, and it's sort of this mystery, like,
Yeah, you get this idea that there's obviously this fighting for who gets to lead the rings and what's going on, and there's obviously this quest where you could fight and become the leader of this planet, and the leader seems to get a special privilege where he can return to the actual civilized world or something like that, because otherwise there's no way off this planet.
Yeah, it's a pretty typical anime type of setup there.
It could easily be a shonen fighting show.
It could easily be an RPG or shonen fighting show, and, you know, it leaves you wondering the whole time, like, is he going to become the Beast King? Probably. That's kind of obvious, but I don't know if he does yet. I haven't seen that part, so it's not really a spoiler. But
what I like so far is that the situations that come up in the show, as far as I've seen, are not the straight-up stereotypical scenes in a lot of anime recently. They're you can't predict what's going to happen. The characters react in pretty convincingly realistic ways. They don't react in expected ways all the time. The characters seem pretty well developed, especially for how little of the show I've seen so far.
Yeah, the characters, and the other thing is not only do the characters act in, I mean, they're not the smartest characters. Sometimes they do kind of stupid stuff, but they're all pretty cool. Like that nerdy guy with the glasses.
Yeah.
Who has, like, no interest in being the leader. He's a cool guy. The guy who's actually the number 1 was really cool. The one fight scene, the one real shonen-style fight scene that we saw was actually really awesome because it was short. And it said, aha, the smart guy beats the big guy.
I think part of what makes this show good so far seems to be that it's 11 episodes. So they've dispensed with filler. They've dispensed with anything that isn't necessary for the plot. It's just the plot, the characters, the mood. And that's it. And they're just plowing through.
Mm-hmm. Another thing is this show, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there are things that happen pretty early on in the show, you know, soon after the parents get killed. We're talking like episode 1, 2, and 3 here. Where I'm not going to tell you what they are because then there's no point in watching the show.
Suffice to say,
the writers of this show have big nuts. Like, there is stuff that no show would even think of doing in such an early point in the story, and they just do it. Like, bam, it's done. And you're like, whoa, you can't do that. There's no way you just did that.
Yes.
And then the next episode, you're thinking, they did it.
Something happens early on where I remember thinking to myself, that didn't really happen. That's going to be undone. Or did that happen? Did they really do it? Wow. And I really couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and then you're a couple episodes later.
But at the same time,
it's done.
I was cheering because that sort of thing is what I want out of anime these days. It's rare now that an anime will surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I liked about anime in the first place when I started watching, is that they had the kinds of plots and the kinds of stories that weren't in the other mediums that I was experiencing at the time. But now that I've seen enough anime, I've seen all the anime plots there are to see. So when you come out with a new anime plot, one that I haven't seen already, it doesn't even have to be super awesome. It can just be really great like this one is. And I'll go, woohoo, something new. All right.
So I'm pretty much looking forward to watching the rest of the show, and hopefully we'll do it this week or next week at the latest.
Yeah, I mean, only 11 episodes. It can't take us that long to finish this thing.
Yeah, I really doubt it's going to have a U.S. release anytime soon, so check it out. I'm sure you can find a torrent somewhere.
Yeah, maybe the torrent box or whatever box torrents, right? They usually have torrents of like a whole series, and there's only 11 episodes, so it won't take you that long to download.
Now, of course, before we end for tonight, I would like to point out, one, that last night's episode was actually uploaded today due to us getting our internet back. So if you missed an episode yesterday, tonight is a matinee.
Well, this afternoon was a matinee, and now is the actual Geek Night. So, lucky you. 2-1.
2, the contest for the worst anime you've ever seen is still going. Now, just to clarify, because people have just been sending us entries that were basically naming a bad anime, don't just tell me which anime is bad. I know which anime is bad. I do a podcast about anime. I need you to tell me why it's bad. I want a small essay. I want some humor here. We're basically going to pick the best write-up, not the worst anime, for this prize.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point of a contest. I mean, anyone can name an anime. You don't win a prize for telling me that what I already know, that Gray Digital Target is terrible. You have to humor me. I should read some text that you have written, and I should laugh. And if I laugh at yours, or if I am more entertained by yours, or if I go, oh shits, that one is awesome, then you are going to win a prize for doing something, for being cool, not just for writing down the name of an anime.
If you want an example of what we're looking for, listen to Anime World Order's review of MD Geist. That is what I want from you. I'm also going to up the ante. If you win and your entry is good enough, you're not just going to get the OST to the second worst anime ever, MD Geist. You're also going to get the OST to Genocyber.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Maybe that's why no one's entering this contest, because it's not worth writing an essay to win soundtracks to bad anime.
No, I think maybe, I don't know, because the contest for Thursday night, which has a yet-to-be-determined prize, we haven't even announced what the prize is, we've gotten dozens of quality entries. I don't know what I'm going to do. They're all good.
Well, we'll have to find out. And if you want us to have contests and give away shit that we don't want, then you should enter them. Because if no one enters our contests, then that tells us no one cares about them and we'll stop having them.
Maybe after we finish the current Thursday contest, we should have a contest where whoever comes up with the best contest wins.
We'll see how many people enter that contest and then decide whether they continue having contests. However,
don't think you're clever, because if you enter the contest and your idea is a contest, you're not going to win anything.
Or what if your idea is a contest?
That might be in consideration.
Oh well. Jyu Oh Sei is a show that you should watch.
I'm very excited about it. I really want to see how it ends. Emily has seen so much to where she knows a bunch of spoilers, and apparently something horrible happened near the end. Because I was standing in the room, and she was watching it, and I was avoiding the screen, and luckily I don't understand enough Japanese, but I hear kind of this gooey squick noise, followed by Emily going, ah!
That was probably a plant doing something.
A plant
in
probably...
that show, if you hear a squish noise, it's probably a plant, because the planet is covered in horrible, nasty plants.
Yes, and don't think that these are plants like tentacle monster hentai plants. These are plants like just bite you in half, and that's the end.
Yeah, think of it like Big Planet of Horrors instead of Little Shop. That's what this is.
Feed me, Seymour.
Maybe that's the end of the anime, is the whole planet is just one big plant that eats you.
Somehow I don't think the nature of the planet is going to be the plot.
Oh, it's not going to be a KO Century Beast?
Nah. We still got to review KO Century Beast.
We will. We will watch it soon.
Let's bring it to Kate and Adam's house this weekend and watch it there, because I know Kate hates it.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.